Right, joining me to discuss it all, as usual on a Friday, 2GB radio host and voice of the people, my good friend Luke Grant. All right, Luke.
Hello, Peter.
I am relying on you for common sense here. You're out there, you're on Talkback, you're hearing from the real people.
Yes.
How much has this Facebook ban cut through?
I was quite surprised. I was on air this morning and there were plenty of callers who were calling Facebook out. I think we've come through the Chinese government bullying and come together as a people to say, you know what, we don't cop that. And I don't know who was providing advice to Mr. Zuckerberg, but I can tell you it's gone down like a lead balloon, and people are filthy just with the idea that this bloke at his whim, because he doesn't like the way the debate is going in this country, and good on the federal government for starting this, and I'm sure the rest of the world will follow, but based on things not going his own way, he's tossed the toys out of the cot. Well, you know what? The big question now is, do we really need Facebook? There you go, Mark Zuckerberg. What do you offer? You were very, in your comments before, Peter, about what Facebook does with content people like you and I and others create. One of the things is not just the story, it's the conversation. And you look at any one of your postings and underneath there'll be 1 or 2 or 300 comments where people actually engage with content you created. It's not just the piece. It's what that triggers. And it makes a place like Facebook, you'd have to think, with that content a whole lot more interesting, and they should pay for it.
Yeah, and look, they use our information online. Like nothing that's free online is truly free. We are the commodity. I think we're all waking up to that pretty clearly at the moment. But we're probably old enough to remember this. But remember when Coca-Cola changed the recipe, and without sort of telling anyone what they were doing, they brought out that new Coke, I think they called it in the 80s, rebranded it. Didn't last long. I mean, people went bunter. Coca-Cola changed its mind and put the old recipe back in the bottle, and we've been having that Coke for such a long time. Do you reckon Facebook will realise this is a big own goal and that they will back down here?
I think they're going to have to. I really do. By the way, my grandparents told me about that Coca-Cola thing. You're right. I'm not old enough to know, Peter. Thanks for the tip.
Goodness
I reckon.
I
reckon they will. They're going to have to. I mean, the public pressure, it seems to me, is too great. Look, they might have thought, we can bluff our way out of this. But again, the people of Australia, and thankfully our political leadership, are awake up to this. And now we've got other countries getting on board. The Indian Prime Minister spoke to Scott Morrison last night. People are going to say, this is right. They're using material they didn't make. They're making a quid off it. And, they should come forward with a cheque and say, righto, we'll all contribute here. And you know what? I've seen, and you would have seen, so many really talented colleagues leaving news organisations like ours because of the difficulty in getting a quid. We don't rely on the taxpayer. We rely on good people, good advertisers. And, with Facebook entering and Google to some extent the market, it makes it even tougher. So we should be properly compensated. I think it's only fair.
And I want to underscore, the reason why we still have Australian stories, drama on TV is because we have rules that say you have to make Australian content. If there wasn't Australian news organisations, if Facebook and others blow them out of the water, if they don't make it viable for news organisations to exist, we'll have our news pumped in from the US. I mean, we will have all of those cultural atrophications that you have when you no longer have enough of a critical mass to make a buck in this country in things like media, things like drama. And Facebook has taken the China playbook. Australia is big enough to matter, but not too big to matter. So they can bully us as an example around the world, but we're not like in India where they'll lose 1 billion customers. So I think that's where the PM was really smart last night by having a conversation with Prime Minister Modi, making sure, with the weight of that sort of consumer base in India, we've got a few big fellas standing behind Australia. It's just not a 25 million, population middle power here. I think that was a very smart move from the PM.
I agree.
What did you make of the other PM? The other PM that was out there. I mean, I heard his voice and it was a bit like PTSD when I hear Kevin Rudd. He was there today. It was vintage Rudd. What did you make of his appearance?
Yeah, well, wow. We didn't. If we needed a reminder, we got it, Peter, today. didn't we, with his claims? Look, the Courier Mail, and we read all these papers every day, or at least some of them. The Courier Mail took a set against Anastasia Palaszczuk's lack of sensitivity around border closures, and they didn't hold back. Now, what did the people of Queensland do? They returned Anastasia Palaszczuk. They've given, in Victoria, the Herald Sun, Daniel Andrews, rightly in my view, the rounds of the kitchen because of the appalling administration of hotel quarantine. You look at the polls and the fellows riding high. Look, Peter and I enjoy what we do in our various organisations, but I don't think either of us, nor anyone I know, really thinks that we'll put our point of view, and as a result of taking a strong line, will change the way Australia votes. It's like they're under a spell. Wake up, you're not. They're not. I mean, people are clever enough, and it almost, in my mind, puts down the intelligence of the average voter. They'll consume news, they'll consume an opinion, and they'll, from that, make their own opinion. But back to Kevin Rudd, you had the best seat in the House when you actually were able to usher him and that government out when you and Tony Abbott saved Australia from all that we saw on show today, Peter. So on behalf of all of us, thank you again.
And you know what? I never thought I'd say this, but all credit to Julia Gillard as well. She gave us a very good example to follow. All right, I'll leave it there. You have a great weekend, Luke Grant.
You too, Peter.
See you next
week.
Good
to see you. Okay, bye-bye.